You don't join the FBI because it looks exciting. You join because you believe order is fragile and someone has to stand between chaos and everything else. When your acceptance letter arrives, there is no celebration, just a quiet understanding that your life is about to split into before and after. The Bureau doesn't recruit heroes. It recruits people willing to disappear into responsibility. Quantico strips you down to something basic. At the Academy, nobody cares about your past achievements. Lawyers run beside former Marines. Computer experts struggle through defensive tactics, while former athletes fall behind. In legal coursework, the instructors never raise their voices, which somehow makes the pressure worse. They watch constantly, noting not just what you do, but how you decide. The real test isn't whether you can shoot straight or memorize statutes. It's whether you hesitate when the scenario gets ugly. In simulations, hostages scream, suspects run, and every option feels wrong. You learn quickly that perfection is impossible, only survival with consequences. Graduation day is quiet compared to what you expected. No dramatic speeches, no cinematic music. Just a badge pressed into your hand and credentials that turn you from a civilian into a federal agent. For the first time, strangers will have to listen when you speak. For the first time, your mistakes will carry legal weight. The badge doesn't feel powerful, it feels heavy. Your first assignment proves how unglamorous reality is. As a rookie special agent, you spend weeks buried in reports, assisting on cases that are already years old. Surveillance duty becomes your new normal. Sitting in a van that smells like stale coffee, watching doors that never open, documenting movements that lead nowhere. The job is mostly patience. You learn that real investigations move at the speed of bureaucracy and evidence, not adrenaline. When you finally participate in your first arrest, it's a middle-aged accountant accused of fraud. He doesn't run, he doesn't resist, he simply sighs and holds out his wrists. The click of the cuffs feels louder than any gunshot would have. Over time, the work grows darker. As a field operative, you begin seeing what crime actually does to people, not the headlines, not the dramatic confrontations, the aftermath. Apartments where the furniture is still overturned from a struggle. Families sitting in shock, unsure what to ask. Victims who keep apologizing for something that wasn't their fault. You execute warrants at dawn because surprise keeps people alive. Sometimes suspects surrender, sometimes they don't. The moments of danger are brief and chaotic, followed by hours of paperwork that force you to replay every second in your mind. You stop telling friends what you do because you don't want to watch their expressions change. Years pass, and you become the agent new recruits look toward during operations. As a senior agent, you develop instincts you can't fully explain. You know when a suspect is lying before you know why. You sense tension in a room the way others sense temperature. During interviews, silence becomes your most powerful tool. People rush to fill it, often revealing more than they intended. But confidence has a cost. One night during a raid, a suspect moves suddenly, reaching under a couch. Your weapon is trained on him before your conscious mind catches up. For a fraction of a second, the world narrows to a single choice. He freezes. Later alone, you realize how easily that moment could have ended someone's life, and how little time you had to decide. Promotion to supervisory special agent shifts the burden from action to responsibility. Now you plan operations instead of simply executing them. You decide who goes through which door, how much force is justified, when to abort. If something goes wrong, it isn't just tragedy, it's your decision on paper. You start sleeping with your phone beside the bed because emergencies don't respect schedules. Field agents still joke with you, still call you boss, but there's a subtle distance now. Leadership isolates you in ways danger never did. As an assistant special agent in charge, the job becomes less about criminals and more about systems. You coordinate with local police, federal partners, prosecutors, and political offices that care as much about optics as outcomes. Budget constraints suddenly matter as much as evidence. You learn that justice is not just about catching the guilty, it's about maintaining public trust. Press briefings become carefully choreographed performances where every word is weighed. You begin to understand how fragile large institutions are, how easily panic can spread if the wrong information gets out at the wrong time. When you become special agent in charge, the scale expands beyond anything you imagined when you first held the badge. An entire field office answers to you, hundreds of personnel, thousands of cases, Countless lives affected by decisions you make daily. Major incidents bring reporters, politicians, and community leaders demanding answers you may not yet have. You stand behind podiums projecting confidence while privately calculating risks and unknowns. In quiet moments, you walk through the office after hours, looking at empty desks and wondering whether you're doing enough to keep everyone safe. Eventually, Washington calls. Headquarters is a different battlefield, one fought with strategy, intelligence, and long-term planning. You sit in rooms where national priorities are debated, where resources are allocated, where threats are assessed not by how frightening they are, but by how likely they are to destabilize entire regions. You no longer chase criminals. You decide which threats deserve pursuit at all. Sometimes that power feels more unsettling than any raid ever did. Distance creates its own kind of moral weight. As retirement approaches, the Bureau feels both familiar and foreign. Younger agents move faster, speak differently, rely on technologies that didn't exist when you started. They treat you with respect tinged with curiosity, as if you're a living artifact from another era. When one of them asks what the job is really like, you struggle to condense decades into something useful. You finally tell them the truth, that the job isn't about catching villains or saving the day. It's about showing up again and again, even when the outcome is uncertain. The day you turn in your badge is strangely quiet. No dramatic farewell, no sense of closure. Just paperwork, handshakes, and the realization that the authority you carried for so long disappears the moment the credentials leave your pocket. Driving home, you keep expecting the phone to ring for some emergency to pull you back. It doesn't. Civilian life feels unreal at first. Grocery stores, traffic jams, casual conversations. Everything seems too slow, too unguarded. Yet the habits remain. You notice exits automatically, scan crowds for anomalies, position yourself where you can see the room. The Bureau never fully leaves you. It just stops defining your daily schedule. Years later, you sit on a quiet porch watching evenings settle over a neighborhood that has no idea how many threats never reached it. Somewhere, agents are working cases that will never make headlines, making decisions that will never be publicly understood. You feel a complicated mix of relief and responsibility. Relief that you no longer carry the weight, responsibility because you know how much it mattered. In the end, the ranks, the titles, the authority all blur together. What remains is the knowledge that for most of your life, you stood between order and the forces trying to break it. Not as a hero, not as a legend, but as part of a system made of people willing to endure pressure without recognition. And as the light fades and the street grows quiet, you realize something simple and unsettling. The Bureau never promised you glory. It only promised that the work would matter. And it did.